Sunday morning. Well, technically it is Sunday morning. Why would I wait? Um, but man, like the way that Mizzou worked through this game, several moments where I thought both teams were just letting the other side just take it. It seemed uh, begging for the other team to win the game at times. Auburn had several instances like that. I thought uh, several missed kicks from them. I think you actually, all all things considered, you don't think Mizzou's kicking situation is too bad based on how today went for Auburn. My goodness. Now, I'm not saying that Mizzou's kicking situation is good. We can obviously dive into that, but man, the way that Mizzou fought towards the end in a game that, look, you're going to look back and you're not going to be all that impressed by the film. You're going to see a whole lot of things to work on. But in the end, all that matters is that you find the winning play, which is what Eli Drinkwitz talked about after they lost to Alabama this past week. Just find the winning play. And Bo Perbula finally did. He didn't have a great game, but he finally was able to come down in that goal to go situation, come up with the rushing score, go up in double OT, and then my gosh, the defense was on point in so many spots that helped Mizzou stay in it. And so we'll talk about it here on the Knee Jerk Reactions. If you are, again, up with us, kudos to you. Leave a comment if you so desire on YouTube or on Facebook, and let us know what you thought of Mizzou's win against Auburn on the road tonight. This is going to obviously be abbreviated. We'll run through these. It's 5 takeaways. As always, if you're watching, you'll see them flash on the screen. If you're listening back, I'll read them off to you. But player of the game is Zion Young. Like, that's takeaway number one. Him and the rest of the front seven wrecked this game. Needed to, honestly. Without it, I don't know where Mizzou is in a game like this. Zion Young with 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. Mizzou as a team, 5 sacks, bringing back 29 yards lost by Auburn on those sacks, 9 TFLs for 43 yards lost. It wasn't just Zion. It was Chris McClellan who had an excellent game. I thought this was Sterling Webb's best game in a Tiger uniform, too. Josiah Trotter, as always, going to be flying around the field. Marquise Gracial with a very key that should not go unnoticed. Tackle for loss on a 3rd and goal from the 1 play for Auburn. They get in the end zone there, and they go up 2 scores, and Mizzou probably doesn't tie the game in the end. But instead, they get stopped. They settle for the field goal to go up 7, and Mizzou still has a chance to tie it with a touchdown, which they eventually do. Don't let that go unnoticed. The play of the defensive tackles tonight I thought was really impressive, but I think it also was developed from the fact that Auburn had to devote some extra resources to guys like Zion Young and Damon Wilson in this game. And even through all of that, Zion Young was going to be the player that stood up and said, on the road, be the veteran, be the guy that ultimately leads your team to a gutsy win. And I thought this was his best game at Mizzou. I really do believe that. I know he had a scoop and score against Oklahoma. That's great. And that's going to live on as the best play individually that he's made at Mizzou so far. But Mizzou doesn't win without him. They really don't tonight. They do not get the type of pass rush that they got in this game without a guy like him leading the charge. And if they didn't get any pass rush in this game, well, Jackson Arnold could have sat back there and just let his talented receivers find soft spots in the zone. And look, they still ended up doing that several times, as we're going to talk about here. But the defense was able to do well enough because the guys up front did what they were supposed to. Like this was a matchup that Mizzou could really take advantage of, and they ended up doing that. And Zion Young was the leading charge of it. So they get the 5 sacks, they get the 9 tackles for loss as a team, and it ultimately helps them get off the field in some key spots. Auburn goes 6 of 16 on third down, which isn't a terrible number, but I mean, when you stop them on 10 third downs and a fourth down, you throw in the very last play where they get another sack, essentially. Like, I know Arnold technically threw it to a lineman, which that's not allowed, and it should go down as a sack either way. I don't know if it actually did, but that was the key for Mizzou to win this game tonight. Zion Young and everyone on that front 7 needed to be on point, needed to be getting after Jackson Arnold. They did exactly that, and Mizzou's defense ended up saving the day towards the end, despite still showing a few issues with the big plays. And look, I also saw this as a bit of a matchup that did not go in Mizzou's favor going into the game. Auburn's got some really talented receivers. Cam Coleman popped off for a 100-yard night, 6 catches for him. They've got other playmakers on the outside that can burn you. But again, this seems to be a bit of an issue that Mizzou is giving up at this point. Big plays that Auburn got in this game, the big pass plays that they gave up. They had pass plays of 15 yards, 19 yards, 2 20-yarders, a 27-yarder, and another 15-yard. Actually, no, I'm looking at the wrong team here. So I'll go back and go to the home side for the big plays. No, these big plays, there were fewer of them, but they were still much more effective, much more explosive. Auburn had a 46-yard catch to Cam Coleman, a 16-yarder, a 37-yarder, and a 34-yarder. And it set them up in some good spots to score the football. But, of course, their red zone offense seemed to fail in this game a lot. Again, Auburn was handing this game to Mizzou, like at several areas. Like the missed field goals, not executing in the red zone, whatever it was, there were so many moments where Mizzou could have seized control of this game, particularly in the middle quarters, and it just didn't happen. And Auburn's offense was at least good enough to be able to put them in those spots by getting a big play here and there, and that's what made this game go down to the wire. Look, Mizzou's defense, the secondary, it's got to get cleaned up. Like, there will be tougher tests down the line that Mizzou has to deal with later on in the season that they're going to have to survive. And I don't think they can do it by giving up 3 plays of 30 yards or more in any of those other games, because the teams that they have coming up will be better at finishing in the red zone than Auburn was tonight. So it's got to get cleaned up. Eventually, something's got to give. You have to, whether it's scheme or it's still communication or whatever it is, coverage busts, things like that. There was one particular play. I want to say it was the 34-yarder Jackson Arnold found Perry Thompson. Arnold, first of all, just squirts out of danger where thought Mizzou was going to get home with the sack. They forced him out and forced him to roll out in a lot of areas, but got him to the ground a good amount. Like, again, more or less a positive for Mizzou defensively tonight because of their pass rush. But just a play where I didn't understand where the defensive backs were supposed to be on that particular play. They just left a guy kind of wide open. There was a safety that was coming in over the top, maybe trying to swipe at it right at the very end before it got to the wide receiver. But I just was a little confused as to where where their assignments were. And look, obviously that's something they'll look at and continue to harp on, but look, we're 7 games in, and how much better, if you're being honest, as a Mizzou fan, do you feel about the secondary shoring things up and finding ways uh, to stay in games? Like, I think defensively, this puts a little bit more emphasis on the front four, the front seven, to get home on a lot of these quarterbacks. But eventually, you are going to have coverage sacks, and I actually do think last weekend against Alabama, Mizzou had a couple of coverage sacks. It was because Ty Simpson was able to, or was not able to, get rid of the football when he wanted to, because Mizzou, I thought, as the course of the game developed last week against Alabama, I thought they looked a little bit better. And maybe they could have built upon that and had a better performance on the back end than they did tonight. But hey, still you see that. And so I don't know. Again, I feel good about Mizzou's pass rush being able to make this a defensive unit that is still strong and gets the job done and can keep Missouri in games. But one-on-one matchups, especially with the ones that Mizzou was having to deal with tonight, sometimes are going to scare you in those situations. Zones that also you're trying to figure out the best scheme there that allows Mizzou to stay effective against those obvious passing downs. And so, look, Mizzou had some leaky moments, obviously. All in all, I still call the defense when you only give up 17 points. I know it's Auburn's offense, but this is still a road environment. You go out there, and in 60 minutes plus 2 overtime periods, you only hold them to 17. I mean, still a positive to take away all in all. It was because the front seven did its job. Backside of it, though, we're still asking those questions going forward. So those are the defensive thoughts from me on that. Let's get to the offense here. Bo Pribula's up and down game. It looked pretty good, at least to start out. I know the first drive wasn't all that great, but then he puts together a drive where Mizzou scored the touchdown. I believe that came towards the end of the first quarter, start of the second, where, look, Pribula, he was working very well with the receivers that he was distributing to tonight. 7 different pass catchers for the Tigers. Donovan Olubade, another good game. Keep him in the offense. Keep giving him reps. Do whatever you need to do to make sure he's on the field, especially for the big plays. Josh Manning with a really good night. Kevin Coleman, Marquise Johnson. I thought really all 4 of them providing a stable of wide receivers that not only are giving you good targets, but also getting yards after the catch and helping out the offense in that sense. So it was working out, I think, very well for Bo Pribula in this game up until the interception. And look, it was a great play by the Auburn DB. The first one that he threw is, again, towards the end of the half. I'll get the actual timestamp on it from when it happened at the 2:18 mark in the second quarter. Mizzou is inside the red zone. They're driving. If they get a touchdown there, they go up 10. They get the ball to start the second half with a chance to potentially drive down and go up 3 scores before Auburn even gets another chance at it. So you saw what was developing and what it could have been for Mizzou there, but the interception just kind of took a lot of that away. And Auburn was, of course, not able to do anything with it. They missed a field goal attempt, and nothing was lost for Mizzou there. They still went into halftime with the 3-point lead. But after that, it kind of set off a set of events where Mizzou's offense just stayed stagnant. Went into the half, obviously, but then the next 4 drives in the third and fourth quarter were punt, 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 punt. And Bo Pribula, part of that was just the offensive rhythm just was not there. He had to run around a lot tonight. He was sacked a few times. offensive line, I don't think had their best night. That is a tough defense over there. I said on the Learfield wrap up that I just got done with on the Tiger Radio Network. I think this is the best defense that Mizzou has faced so far. I think Auburn's defense is better than Alabama's. I really do believe that, and they certainly are against the run. So when they took Mizzou out of their rhythm in that aspect, which we'll get to also, then you put the weight of the shoulders on Bo Pribula, and at times he was able to move the football still, but you saw Auburn's defense start to lean on him too, and Mizzou wasn't able to pass block as well as I've seen them do it so far this season. So it put a lot on Pribula's shoulders. The second interception, it was one where, again, you kind of fading away. You are trying to make a play. It's 3rd and long, and you're down near the red zone. Don't think you were quite in it, but you throw it up, you give a guy a chance. I think the DB made another great play. It is an issue, though. Like putting the ball in harm's way, especially on that first interception, when you've got a rhythm going and you're trying to get in the end zone, just was not a great situation to throw a pick. And it's starting to become a trend for Bo Pribula. That's now 4 interceptions in the last 2 games. It's 6 consecutive games with a turnover, 5 consecutive games with an interception. This isn't a problem now for him protecting the football. You just don't know if he's going to be completely clean on every part of the field. Whether Mizzou is driving well or maybe they're stagnant, doesn't really matter. They've come at a lot of different times. And so this now becomes something that you have to look a lot closer at, because the turnover margin can kill you in a game. It didn't necessarily kill Mizzou in this game. I'll check to make sure. Did they win the turnover margin? They didn't tonight. 2-1. Auburn was +1 in that category. But it still is something that Bo Pribula has got to make sure that he cleans up. And then just with the flow of how he has been running things, he seemed a second late on a lot of throws. Like on some of these rollouts, he's recognizing it maybe just a little late in order for the play to be effective, particularly on a rollout to Norfleet where they split him out. It's one of their bread and butter plays. Get Norfleet on the edge. Maybe he gets to hurdle a guy or something like that. The 2-point try and double overtime, kind of the same deal. Players all flocking to the same direction, but Pribula doesn't let the ball go fast enough before the DBs start to close in and make the play on the ball. So it was an up and down game, but through all of that, through all the negatives, give the guy some credit, because he did drive Mizzou down to get some scoring position plays late in this game. Led the game-tying touchdown drive, led the game-winning touchdown drive, scored the game-winning touchdown eventually. Like that's a tough kid. And so even when things get rocky, he wasn't fazed by the environment, wasn't fazed by things just not going his way, still was able to lead this group to, again, find that winning play eventually that they were searching for last weekend against Alabama. Found it tonight against Auburn. Give Bo Pribula credit for that. Up and down game, lots to work on, but win's a win. He'll take it. I know you'll take it too. Now, a lot was on his shoulders because the rushing attack really wasn't there tonight a whole lot. I know Ahmad Hardy broke out for a big run. Bo Pribula had a big run too. He had a big scramble play. But 24 carries for 58 yards for Ahmad Hardy. That's 2.5 per carry. It's not quite what we've expected from Ahmad Hardy so far this season. Is it his fault? I don't really think so entirely. Offensive line, again, leaving a little bit to be desired in tonight's game. So you mainly look at that as what you need to fix. But this is still something that is now going to be Mizzou's reputation. They're a team that wants to run the football. They had shown through the first 5 games that they could do it really well. They can feature one of the best backs in the country, but now teams are adjusting. And it's all SEC defenses from here on out from Mizzou. Those defenses making those adjustments and making sure that you're not running the ball the way that you want to. How do you adjust? How do you keep with the run? Because you still want to do it. You still want to feature it. That's your bread and butter. That's your identity. How do you make the adjustment to continue your effectiveness running the football? Again, I think Auburn exposed a little bit of what Mizzou maybe now needs to clear up or shore up going forward so that they don't get bitten by it again, because you need Ahmad Hardy. You need him to get his numbers, to pace you on offense against the rest of your schedule. You need Jamal Roberts to be a factor too. Wasn't really tonight. Bo Prabula with his legs, I mean, that's at least a positive. I'm not sure what his yardage would have been if you take out the sacks. I believe if I do quick math here, that it'd be 13 carries for 45 yards. Not bad for a quarterback. So, look, still things that you can build on, particular plays on the ground that were able to work for Missouri, but ultimately held to 91 rush yards on the night. I don't know if the passing attack is going to be able to carry them the way that it did in this game eventually to get to the yards necessary to win this game. Maybe it develops more throughout the season, but again, we know how susceptible Mizzou has been to some of these turnovers in recent games. Do you want to expose yourself to that more by throwing more? I don't think you do. I think you still need to run the football a lot. And look, even through Bo Prabula throwing it 40 times and having to throw a lot late because they're trying to come back, Mizzou still ran it more than they passed it. So you know that they're still keeping that as a big part of their game. But now a team has stifled it, and you've got to respond. You got to get back into the room and say, all right, where do we need to get better? Because it wasn't as good as we thought maybe it was heading into that game. So interesting test now for the coaching staff to try and get that going again. Certainly on the players too, to make sure they're executing and that the offensive line has a bit of a better game than it did tonight. But we'll see what that looks like for Vanderbilt next weekend. And look, after this one, it's ugly, but it's still a win. It's all that matters. Mizzou will not. I predict that they will not drop in the polls today. I'm talking to you technically on Sunday morning. I don't think they'll drop in the polls today. They won't rise a whole lot. They'll still be around 15 or so. Vanderbilt obviously will rise up a few more spots after beating LSU today. But it will be, I believe, a top 15 matchup in Nashville on Saturday at 2:30. This was an ugly win from Mizzou. This was one that, look, when you, again, go back and forth, I mean, it's late. I'm trying to jog my brain as to all the crazy things that happened in this contest. Not as crazy as the last meeting between these two at Jordan Hare, thankfully. But you talk about the missed field goals. You talk about just the penalties at times that popped up. The obviously the way that Mizzou came into it, wanting to make sure that they didn't have a letdown on the road like they had opened up with last year. They obviously avoided that, but both teams obviously feel, no matter what the outcome was going to be, they weren't going to feel great about the win. I guess Auburn probably would have felt a little bit better. They felt like they were due, honestly, with the way that they had lost to some ranked SEC opponents each of the last 3 weeks prior, and now they got a fourth straight. So that obviously puts them a little bit more down in the dumps, unfortunately for them. Mizzou with a loss definitely would have felt like, oh, man, second week in a row where we have every single opportunity to win this game and we let it slip away. But look, you end up avoiding that fate. You can now work on the things that you're working on after a victory, which obviously feels a lot better than doing it after a loss. So, and look, nothing is guaranteed in this league. Auburn is going to have to scrape and claw for bowl eligibility. That doesn't necessarily make them a bad team, though. Like, again, I think the best defense that Mizzou has faced so far. And even through all of those losses that they've had, those 4 straight losses, they have not allowed an opponent score more than 24 points in any of those games. That's a good defense. That's a damn good defense over there. And Mizzou held its own. They got what it needed against that team because their defense showed up and was able to kind of win the day in the end, to close out the victory, keep them in it in some key spots, obviously. But you obviously take some good vibes for your defense, aside from the coverage breakdowns. We get it. But the front 7 can you can give the game ball to them. Certainly to Zion Young for how he did it. Now look, Mizzou's still got everything on the table. They didn't look great tonight, but they won a road game in the SEC. Do not just say those wins are a given. They're not. So now you got to get another one. And this one's going to be tougher. Diego Pavia looked excellent today for Vanderbilt against LSU. Like today, Vanderbilt looks like a better team than Mizzou. Based on if you looked at how both teams played just today, Vanderbilt's the better team. So how will Mizzou make the adjustments that they need to make as quickly as they need to now to stay in this? Because loss to Vanderbilt does not completely kill your playoff chances, but margin for error is gone after that. If you lose to Vanderbilt and you head into the bye week 6-2, that means you're going to have to run the table. You got to beat A&M at home. They'll probably still be a top 5 team by then. You got to beat Mississippi State, and then you got to go on the road and beat Oklahoma and Arkansas. I feel like you need to at least give yourself a mulligan during that stretch to keep your playoff hopes alive. So that means you got to win against Vanderbilt on the road. That, again, going to be a tough task. Going to be a tough ask. But I think now Mizzou is going to have to search for those signature wins down the stretch of this season that can then impress the playoff committee once you get closer to those polls eventually coming out. And this is another chance to do that. Now, look, you're going to have another chance in a couple of weeks afterwards when A&M comes to town, but wouldn't you like to do that while 7-1, most likely still in the top 15, maybe even pushing for the top 10, who knows? And then A&M comes in and you pull off that type of upset. And then you're really cooking with peanut oil after that. Again, a lot still that has to be fixed, and we're not trying to count the chickens before they hatch, but just talking about the possibilities here. Mizzou, with a win against Vanderbilt, can keep everything on the table and then some. So that's what they're shooting for in Nashville next weekend. We'll see if they can get it done. And, well, thank you for joining us for this, again, abbreviated version of the knee-jerk reactions. We will have more reactions on the big show at 4 o'clock on Monday with myself and Brendan Schaefer. I'll be a little bit better rested by then, a little more in tune with how I feel about this game, certainly right afterwards. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching live on YouTube and on Facebook. You can catch the knee-jerk reactions after every Mizzou game this football season right here. You can also listen on our podcast page afterwards or on the free KTGR app powered by Yingling. Speaking of Yingling, thanks to everyone who came out to the Deuce Pub and Pit for our watch party tonight. Hope you had a lot of fun. We'll do it once again for the Vanderbilt game coming up, 2:30 kick, so we'll set things up around 2-ish or so. You can come on by and give yourself another chance at some Mizzou football tickets for the A&M and Mississippi State games that'll be coming up. So be sure to come on by. the Deuce Pub and Pit next Saturday to watch Mizzou Vanderbilt with us. It'll be a ton of fun. We'll have some free giveaways, everything like that. So be sure to make that part of your weekend plans for Mizzou and Vanderbilt this upcoming Saturday. And again, take care, everybody. We'll see you on the big show on Monday at 4 o'clock. Thanks for listening to the Knee Jerk Reactions.